Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to another episode of South of Cheddar Curtain. As always, it's your boy Devin Hine, and today it is just going to be your boy Devin Hine. Luke and I do have a busy off-season planned. We're going to meet up next week and do a show talking about the Combine, talking about some free agents. But when we were discussing our plans for the show going forward in this off-season, we decided it would be best for me today to just come on and do a little end-of-the-season recap. With that idea in mind, I'm mainly going to focus on, obviously, the Eagles playoff game, which didn't quite turn out as we would have liked. I think that left, understandably so, a sour taste in a lot of our mouths. Now, weeks and months later, that game looks a little different, especially when we went and saw what the Eagles did, right? They went and won the Super Bowl. They went and beat the ever-living shit out of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And just even looking at the box scores, you can see that we gave up much more of a fight. But this is South of Cheddar Curtain, so you know that I went and watched the game 3 or 4 times over, and that I am going to break down the game, what went well, what didn't go well, and how we should feel about ourselves going forward in the future. But as always, we're going to start with I think and I know. And I know that it's been a while since you guys have heard our voices. And Luke and I had discussed, as I said, we've discussed our plans for the show going forward in the off season. And the amount of content that we put out in the last month and a half of the season was just pretty unacceptable. We're both extremely busy, so it's only natural that our schedules aren't always going to align. But for the rest of the show, and as I did for much of last season and the season before, and I'm hopefully won't be doing this coming season, we're going to be talking about consistency. And I would be a hypocrite if I'm going to be sitting up here and talking about the Packers' lack of consistency when I have the ability to be putting out content, and we have the ability to be putting out content every single week. Whether hopefully it's both of us, some weeks it's just me, some weeks it's just him. You can keep this receipt. You can keep this receipt that this season there will not be a week that does not go by without us breaking down the game. I promise you that. I also know that we need to be getting a lot, and I mean a lot, more return on investment for our first round picks. Let's look at the last two. 2023, we take a hometown favorite. Barrington's own, Iowa's own, whatever you want to call him, the Loch Ness Monster, Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher, defensive end out of Iowa. First round pick. 13 overall. You know who was behind him that we could have taken instead? Christian Gonzalez, stud corner for the Patriots, went at 17. Nolan Smith, you know that name? Yeah, we're going to be talking about him later. Eagles edge rusher at 31. Joey Porter Jr., big physical corner, 6'3", went to Pittsburgh at 32. Brian Branch, yeah, that guy who is a real pain in the ass for us, for the Lions. Yeah, he went at 35. And then Keanu Benton is slowly, quietly becoming one of the best nose tackles in the NFL. He went to Pittsburgh at 49. In Nessie's rookie campaign, 2023, 4 sacks, 8 TFLs. We were hoping that in the switch to the 4-3 scheme under Jeff Hafley that he would get quite the bump because it seemed like he was a little bit of an in-betweener, right? Defensive end, stand up edge rusher. At Iowa, he was much more natural playing that 4-3 defensive end, hand in the dirt technique. So we all hoped going to see a lot more out of Nessie. Wasn't the case. Numbers went down. He did have a forced fumble this past year, but only 3 sacks and 6 TFLs with 1 solo tackle in the playoff game. I think he, on the stat sheet, was credited with 3 or 4, but a lot of those are, you just tap the player, you put your hand on him at the end, and you get counted as an assisted tackle. Yeah, Nessie not quite doing enough, especially when he's taken so high, especially when we've seen so many other players that would make a difference on this team go after him. He's not in bust era yet. He's not quite there, but if we don't see something this year, Lucas Van Ness might be on our top list of draft whiffs. I'm really hoping not. I love the kid. He's got a great motor. Everyone on the team loves him, but we need to see production on the field. Let's look at 2024. And this may not be fair. You know what? I'm going to say it's probably not fair, but I still want to bring it up. We take offensive tackle Jordan Morgan out of Arizona at 25. Sounded like in camp he was having a bit of a hard time because we moved him to both tackle spots, both guard spots. It's like he was playing pretty much everywhere except for center. Jordan Morgan was hopefully give me one of the starting five this year. Didn't turn out that way. Battled injuries for most of the season, only had a handful of snaps, and we really could have used him in Philly, where we had both starting left guard, Elton Jenkins, go down, and then Josh Myers go down, and we had to put in Kadeem Telfort, and then, oh God, it wasn't even Jacob Up. It was Travis Glover. Travis Glover had to come in. And at that point in that game, I was like, okay, we better lose, because if we somehow win this game and go to next week, Jordan Love is going to get massacred. Only 1 year in. I understand that. It's frustrating and disappointing when your first round draft pick makes absolutely zero difference. I mean, and it's one thing, right, that you can kind of see it as like a red shirt season, right? We did have a pretty good starting five, except for Josh Myers, but again, he can't play center. But then in the playoff game, when you lose multiple starting offensive linemen, and Jordan Morgan's hurt, so he couldn't even come in and spell there and help to stop the bleeding, it's just unfortunate. And then it's extra unfortunate when I do the same thing I did for Nessie's pick. When we look and, we could have had Nate Wiggins, a little bit thinner corner, but at 30, he's good man-to-man. That'd be nice in Jeff Hafley's defense. There was this other guy. I don't know if you remember us talking about him. I'm sure you do, because Luke and I both loved him dearly. Cooper DeJean had a pick six in the Super Bowl. Cornerback out of yours truly, Iowa's own, baby. He went at 40. Kamari Lassiter, a little slow looking out of the draft, but he was exceptional down in Houston. He went at 42. It's early. The clock is ticking more on Nessie than Jordan Morgan. But the return on investment these past 2 years has not been what we needed. And there's all this talk about are the Packers potentially going to trade out of the first round of the draft? I'm not saying that we should do it, but what I'm saying is that we look at our last two drafts as a prime example, like that nobody is a home run, right? With these prospects, you can watch all the film, you can look at all of their measurables, you can look at the RAS scores and all of that. But if we are given the opportunity to go trade for a player that we know is a stud, someone that has been in the NFL, a tested veteran that has shown a consistent high level of play. Like if Seattle calls for DK Metcalf and they want the first round pick, I know everyone else is going to think I'm crazy, but I say, why not? Why not? We've been missing on him lately. We need to do something different. Just something to think about going forward. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this episode, though, folks. I know it's been a while, but it's time for us to go back to Philly on a very cold January night where our Green Bay Packers went in definitely not at full strength. If we remember, we just lost Christian Watson. We had just gotten him back from battling injuries for most of the season, which is kind of the story with Christian Watson. Play him against the Bears the last week of the season in a game where we didn't have much to play for. I know that we could have gotten, I believe it was the 6th seed as opposed to the 7th if we would have won and I believe had some help. So in the second quarter of the game against the Bears, Christian Watson goes down with a non-contact injury. His ACL is torn. He is done until over halfway through next season, which calling that a blow is underwhelming. He's out. Jair, of course, is out. There's only a few things in life that are certain, folks. Death, taxes, and Jair Alexander playing 7 games a season. Number 1 wide receiver, number 1 corner, both out. Not great. What we fail to remember is that Jordan Love started that game against the Bears, right? The whole thought process was, let's get the offense in rhythm. As for most of the season, the offense was not looking in rhythm. And we played actual competitors, especially in the last month of the season. Jordan Love does not leave that game out of like, oh, the game is in hand, let's get Malika. No, Jordan left in the midst of a stuttering offensive performance because he hurt his hand. And as we'll get into this Eagles game, I definitely think that some of his missed throws and his overall piss poor performance was because of that. Because his hand was still at least a little banged up. I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to explain what I see on the field. So we're going into Philly as the underdog, not a complete strength. And how do we start the game? We started off right? No. We don't start it off right. Mr. Hothead Keyshawn Nixon takes the kick return and gets helmet to helmet by former Packer Oren Burks. Ball comes free. There is a clear recovery by Keyshawn Nixon, and I don't know how much they're paying the refs in Philly for that certain play, but they give the ball to the Eagles. What do the Eagles do? They take the short field, coupled by the fact that the Packers were rushing 4, and early on, we're not getting home at all. Jalen Hurts is able to find Jahan Dotson in the corner of the end zone after being able to take a nap and read 3 books in the pocket. Eagles up 7-0. Packers get the ball. We don't do much. First play of the game, Love nearly throws a pick. He was throwing it high to Dontavian Wicks. Clean pocket. Horrible throw. Should have been a pick. We punt shortly after. Eagles get the ball. How does the defense respond? We're already in a 7-0 hole. Offense doesn't help. Game could have gotten very ugly very quickly. Third down, Bullard makes a tackle for loss on Saquon to force a punt. Beautiful play. One of his better plays of the game. Better plays of the season, honestly. In this game, and I think throughout the season, we have seen that Javon Bullard does have strength in the slot. He is very good at defending the flats. He's good in the screen game. He does have good instincts there. But then when you put him back on like a deep zone or kind of like a corner look, he seems to get lost in space. Packers get the ball. We move the ball, get a few first downs on attacking the perimeter on some out routes. And then Nolan Smith, remember him? I mentioned that guy before. Nolan Smith runs right by Zach Tom. Nolan Smith is an edge rusher. Zach Tom comes out of its stance, taking kind of an outside approach, anticipating that Nolan Smith is going to go around the outside. Nolan Smith shoots the gap through Mr. Zach Tom and I believe Mr. Sean Ryan and goes right to Jordan Love. Packers punt the ball. Eagles next possession, Rashawn Gary has Jalen Hurts dead to rights in the backfield on a read option play and just absolutely lets him go. Rashawn Gary did overall have a good game, but moments like that, it's just like, bro, we pay you all that money to be one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, and you had him dead to rights. It's not like Zadarius Smith on a read option, selling home completely and then just being whiffed and them going right by him. No, you were in the right play. You just didn't finish it. There are some times where we question Rashawn's motor. Some plays he's going 100%. Some plays you just are left shaking your head, and I really don't want to be seeing that out of you, Rashawn Gary. You are Bane. When you're right, and you're better than that. Fortunately, we send a blitz with Mr. Edgerrin Cooper, who, by the way, was definitely snubbed for Defensive Rookie of the Year. The only reason why he didn't get it was due to lack of snaps and lack of productivity because of lack of snaps. But Edgerrin Cooper is able to come through on a middle linebacker blitz, and he knocks Hurts to the ground to force a field goal. So we are down 10-0 to Philly going into the second quarter. First drive. I believe it's probably one of the first plays of the second quarter. Jordan Love is looking for Dontavian Wicks on what I'm going to call a sluggo, if that. A sluggo, if you don't know, is a slant and go. You fake the slant, and then you break back to the outside, hoping the corner sells the slant, and then you have separation. Dontavian didn't sell it at all. He took a half step towards the middle. Darius Slay didn't bite one bit. Slay's a little older now, but he's still an all-pro corner. And Jordan Love throws up a 50-50 ball, and essentially Darius Slay just boxes out Dontavian Wicks. First interception of the game for Jordan Love. That'll be number 1 of 3 for him. I'm placing more of my blame on Wicks just for the shoddy route and then inability to come back for the ball if your quarterback is going to trust you, which that's something that was really shown to me throughout this game. And even looking back to a little bit of the Bears tape is how much Jordan Love trusts and believes in Dontavian Wicks. I know a lot of Packer Nation has turned their back on him. I know that he had the highest percentage of drops in the NFL this season for a wide receiver as per Pro Football Focus. But Jordan Love ain't listening to that. And the Dontavian Wicks haters need to buckle in because the man's not going anywhere. And I anticipate he will continue to be a focal point of this offense going forward. Eagles get the ball after a turnover. Again, another point in this game where it could have gotten very ugly very quickly. What do? We force a punt. Carl Brooks, folk hero as always, forces pressure, forces a bad throw. We get the ball back. Next Packers possession, Jordan Reed gives a little spark, gets us a punt return to the 43-yard line. He then connects from Jordan Love on a first down. Jacobs has a couple of nice, hard, traditional north and south runs for 5 and 6 yards. Tucker Kraft, we got crafty with him in this game, folks. He converts on a 3rd and 1 on a direct snap, like the tush push. Yeah, we got something too. It's the Kraft push. We get cheesy with it here. But he doesn't just run for the first down. He runs for like 5 or 6. Like he takes a few Eagles on his back and says, hey, let's go closer to the end zone, guys. I'll take you for free. We're then backed up into a 3rd and 12. Jordan Love runs for 11. The next play, we go back to the Kraft push. Gets the first down. The following play, Jordan Love has Romeo Doubs in man-to-man coverage against Isaiah Rodgers because at this point, Darius Slay is out of the game. Top of the screen on the TV, man-on-man coverage. Dobbs gets his hand on it, gets a backup corner. Ball's batted away. Missed touchdown by Packers wide receiver. And that is going to be a theme throughout the show and throughout the game. We then fail to get a first down. We line up with Brandon McManus, who I believe only missed 1 kick throughout the entire regular season, who hit every single one of his extra points. 38-yarder should be a gimme. This isn't Daniel Carlson. This isn't the Silver Fox. Sorry, Luke, but I'm going to be real. This is McMoney. And McMoney McMissed. So the Packers come away after a drive that went deep into Philadelphia territory, after a drive where we had the ball in the end zone in a Packer receiver's hands with 0 points. Eagles get the ball. What am I going to say again? Another point where this game could have gotten very ugly very quickly. And we had a key play by a Packer defender to tackle. I guess he didn't tackle, but he essentially made Jalen Hurts give himself up for a 3-yard loss. Who do you think was it? Sean Gary? Edgerrin Cooper? Javon Bull? No, it was Colby Wooden. Colby Wooden, the guy we used to laugh at, showed up more in this playoff game than half the other guys did. Shout out to you, Colby Wooden. Beautiful play. Packers get the ball back. At this point, and I'm probably late on it, forgive me, but Elton Jenkins had gone down. Elton Jenkins did not finish the game. So we bring in Kadeem Telfort to play left guard. And this is where the Kadeem Telfort penalties begin. On this drive, we had 2 Telfort holding penalties. Thankfully, after the first one, on 1st and 20, Jordan Love hits Jaden Reed across the middle, who makes like 5 Eagles miss. He gets a first down for 20. Which I do have to give a shout out to Luke's boy, Dontavian Wicks. Did have a nice block. At least he's been redeeming himself. Right? He had a hard start to the game. We'll learn more as we keep going on through this game breakdown. Dontavian did come back fighting, which I appreciated to see out of the young man. Hit Tucker Kraft for 10 yards. Chris Brooks with some power running for 5 yards after a little dump off. And then Jordan Love's able to hit Dobbs for first down to keep the drive going. And then we get into our second Jordan Love interception. 2nd and 10. He throws probably one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen him throw. You had Tucker Kraft coming underneath on kind of just a flat, 5-yard and cut over. And then I believe it was Jaden Reed on a 10 to 12 yard in behind. And Jordan Love just threw it right in between them to Zach Bond. He had Tucker Kraft wide open underneath, and the trajectory of his pass, if it was going for Reed, just didn't make sense. Absolutely awful, inexcusable. I love Jordan Love. He's still the guy, but it looked just like the Fred Warner interception against the 49ers in the playoffs last year. He just sometimes, unfortunately, still has those moments where his brain just freezes. Have you heard me say this before? And again, here's another time where the game could have gotten very ugly. Packers turnover. Eagles get the ball. And Evan Williams is able to force a pass breakup on third down, and we get the ball back. 20 seconds left in halftime, so we just need it. So we're into the third quarter. Somehow we're only down 10-0. Eagles have the ball, and we force a punt. Rashawn Gary gets a sack, redemption for the whiff earlier, and then Carl Brooks is able to stop Saquon Barkley at the line of scrimmage on a third down run. We get the ball back, and we got cooking. Jordan Love was able to hit Josh Jacobs underneath to gain a first down. And then on 3rd and 9, the Eagles send a blitz. And this is the big moment where Dontavian redeems himself. They have him on a slot fade, so going out of the slot, running just a deep ball towards the perimeter. Jordan has several rushers in his face. He gets clocked. He somehow gets the ball off. It's an effort. Dontavian's down there somewhere, and Dontavian somehow comes down with the ball with Reed Blankenship all over him. Beautiful, beautiful play by Dontavian. The next play, Jordan tries to hit Romeo in the end zone. In double coverage, would be a tough contested catch. Romeo gets popped, the ball pops out, and then Romeo goes into the locker room for, I believe, concussion protocol, and his day is done there. On 3rd and 13, Love looks for Wicks in double coverage towards the end zone. Wicks is able to draw the PI. Following third down, we have Bo Melton in the end zone. Coverage was tight, had his hands on the ball, would have been a tough grab in the end zone. Doesn't come through with it. Forgive me, the play before as well, he's trying to hit Reed on an out route. Would have been a tough catch. Ball's in his hands. If he catches it, he scores. So on that drive alone, we have 3 plays that should have ended in touchdowns, and yet we have to settle for 3, 10-3. Eagles get the ball back, and they start moving it. Jalen Hurts starting to get in a rhythm. He finds Devontae Smith open for 20 yards on a crosser. As always, the crossers are Achilles' heel. And then Jeff Hafley decides to dial up the blitz, which I did appreciate, right? First matchup with the Eagles, I kept on calling for more pressure. Let's get after him. Let's get after him. Well, unfortunately, on this blitz, we go double A gap. So we have 5 guys, 6 guys at the line of scrimmage. We're sending both of the middle linebackers right at Jalen Hurts. So it's man-to-man coverage. This is also called cover 0. And Jalen Hurts identifies it. Hot routes Dallas Goedert to just run a little bubble screen. He dumps it off to Goddard. Goddard absolutely takes Carrington Valentine's manhood. I knew that I was going to come on and do a show today. And I was scrolling through, it was either Instagram or Reddit yesterday, just scrolling through reels, and big surprise, what is most of my feed? Football stuff, right? But I hadn't seen any reels or any little clips of this game since it happened. And the first one that I saw was Dallas Goedert running over and then stiff-arming Carrington Valentine twice into the ether. Eagles missed the extra point afterwards, so it's 16-3. We get the ball back. There's now 3:20 left in the third. We start off, we go empty. Jordan Love hits Josh Jacobs over the middle. In this game, too, we really saw how much of an impact Josh Jacobs can be in the passing game. And not just on little screen plays, but you can send him out in 5 wide and send him on a route, and he's going to get open. And we did also see when Love was in the gun and under pressure and with the receivers to continuing to drop like flies, it was a pretty successful play to, if Josh Jacobs is just on a little, block and then leak out, Oftentimes, Josh Jacobs was the best read on that play, and he accounted for several key Packer first downs doing essentially that. Just getting the ball in space, not even on a necessarily designed play, just that's someone that Jordan Love is going to trust. And that trust has been earned. Big day for Josh Jacobs. Not insane numerically. He didn't go run for 200 yards, but he showed that when he showed up in the offseason, when he showed up in March or April, and he was talking about how he wants to come in and win a championship, how he's watched this Packer team get so close so many times, and he wants to be the one to push him over the edge. He's a man of his words, folks. He's a man of his words. And if somehow you were still not sure about Josh Jacobs going into this game, well, you best be sure about him now, because he is him. Continuing on this Packer drive, again, a little more redemption for Dontavian Wicks on a 3rd and 7. Love hits him in triple coverage. He takes a shot, holds onto the ball. 2 plays later, the Eagles audible to a too high safety look. Remember, at this point, Christian Watson has been out. Romeo Doubs is out. Dontavian took another headshot the play after his last catch. So on this play, he was out as well. So who do the Packers have out at wide receiver? You have Bo Melton and Malik Heath. And the Eagles audible to a too high safety coverage to defend against the pass because they're scared of Bo Melton and Malik Heath. So Jordan says, okay, I see you safeties back there. All right. Run play to Josh Jacobs, who runs for 32 yards and takes multiple Eagles with him and gets stopped inches short of the goal line. Tom Brady was screaming on the broadcast. And he said, and I quote, "Absolutely ridiculous run by Josh Jacobs." Well said, Tom. Well said. The following play, we had a nice block by, remember this name? Luke Musgrave. Yeah, we won 3 tight end sets, and we just a little HB dive. Jacobs got pushed back originally. He kind of realigned, went back to the outside, and Luke Musgrave had his guy in the dirt. Packers are able to get this to a 1-score game, 10-16, with just a few seconds off in the fourth quarter. But speaking of Musgrave, that was something that I questioned. So why we didn't use him more. I know, so many times do I say this? Musgrave has battled injuries for most of the season, but he still is one of our strongest vertical threats when healthy. So maybe that little when healthy is the key part of it, that whatever the coaching staff was seeing in practice indicated that he was not 100% and limited their enthusiasm for him to be a big part of the game plan. But especially when Romeo goes down, I love Bo Melton. I love Malik Heath. I personally would have liked to see a lot more 21 personnel. Get him out there. Get him going vertical. Even if you don't hit him, again, here we go with the MVS talk. You carry the safeties with you. You have to expect the speed and respect it, yada, yada, yada. Would have liked to see more Luke Musgrave. Eagles get the ball now that we've shortened the deficit, only down to 6. And here we shoot ourselves in the foot. Eagles are driving the ball. Keyshawn Nixon gets a unnecessary roughness penalty out of bounds because we know Keyshawn can be a little salty when we're losing. 15-yard penalty, just a bonehead play. Keyshawn plays with his head on fire, which it sometimes can be wonderful, and then sometimes gives the eventual Super Bowl champion 15 free yards. We are able to hold them to 3. They have a quarterback run with Jalen Hurts on 3rd down. Xavier McKinney able to make the stop. Force the Eagles to settle for 3, so it is now 19-10 Philly. Packers get the ball. We get 1 first down on one of those drop-offs to Jacobs like we talked about. I believe he was not the first read. It was just, he was in pass protection. Leaked out. Love gave him the ball. He made something happen. A few plays later, we find ourselves on 4th down. Love sends an out route to Malik Heath. I would say pretty good ball, but Malik Heath has to, extend out of bounds, catches it, doesn't get both feet in bounds. And I mean, that was pretty much our last shot. Eagles get the ball back. Our run defense is playing well. We do get a nice stuff by, I want to say it was TJ Slayton, like stopping Saquon at the line of scrimmage. But then, of course, we get a 15-yard unnecessary roughness penalty because some of that frustration comes out. We do force them to kick a field goal. Eagles are not playing super aggressive at this point. They're running on third down with Saquon Barkley. Evan Williams gets a stop. So 3:12 to go. We get the ball back down 22-10. Nolan Smith gets another sack. At this point, Josh Myers goes down. So then we have to bring in Travis Glover comes in. He did not look good. No. Watching the game back again today and watching Travis Glover play, that might impact my mock drafts a little bit. Like I might be taking another backup lineman a little bit sooner. Now, again, he's a late round draft pick. It's only his first season, but that was not great. That was not great. That was like shades of Alan Barber. Remember when that guy had to come in? Just like, okay, the offense is in trouble. As if we didn't have enough problems, with no Watson, with no Dobbs. And I believe I failed to mention that in the second half, Jaden Reed went down as well, and he was starting to warm up. So we were really down to Dontavian Wicks, Bell Melton, and Malik Heath, and then Tucker and Jacobs as well. But the cupboard was getting pretty thin when it comes to guys that can stretch the field and get you points in a hurry. Love did have an effort. Malik Heath is down there somewhere. Throw to Malik Heath. He hit him for 40 yards, but then, of course, we have a 10-yard holding penalty that wipes that out. Love's able to dump it to Mr. Emmanuel Wilson for a 20-yard gain on 3rd and 19 out of the backfield. Emmanuel Wilson, we've always said, sneakily has some wheels. Nice play for him. But, of course, the Eagles are in prevent coverage at this point, but still a nice play. He did make a couple guys miss. And then Jordan Love with, under 2 to go, throws a Hail Mary essentially on first down, which was just odd. I would consider this another Jordan Love bonehead interception. Throws a Hail Mary to Bo Melton. There's no other Packers in the area, right? In a traditional Hail Mary, you want to have several of your players in the same spot to, contest the ball, to maybe catch it on a tip. That wasn't the case. It was just Bo Melton and like 4 Eagle defenders. So that ball is intercepted. Eagles get the ball back, and then Saquon has a couple short runs, and then he broke what would have been his long of the day, but knowing that the game was won, he did the gentlemanly thing to do and took a knee on the ball. So that's that. 22-10. Our Packers fall in Philly. And it's another early playoff loss for our team. As I kind of said earlier, now we know what the Eagles, went on to go do, right? We thought they would potentially be a powerhouse in this playoffs. We were nervous about how we'd match up with them. They went and go beat the Rams 28-22. They smacked the Commanders 55-23. And then, as I mentioned earlier, they smacked the Chiefs 40-22. This game was close. How many drop touchdowns do we have? 4, 5? I lost count. And the Keyshawn fumble. And the missed field goal. And having your best wide receiver and best corner out. And then losing your best lineman. And then losing another lineman. I think we have to be pretty proud of how this team played in this game. The fact that we were so close with them. Now, you're not happy with the mistakes. You're not happy with the inconsistency. You're not happy with the penalties of frustration. You're not happy with the drops in the end zone. But the reason why I annoyingly repeated myself, saying, and this is where a point where the game could have gotten really ugly, because in so many other renditions of the Packer playoff loss, that is what happens. Adversity strikes, and we fold like an over-caffeinated origami artist. But we didn't. We didn't. The defense battled. Jordan made some bonehead decisions, but he battled. Josh Jacobs battled. Jaden Reed battled. We came up short, but this is probably the most this team has shown me in a loss that I can remember, other than, the Matt Flynn in New England, where we nearly beat them except for the whole Dan Connolly offensive lineman, 70-yard kick return, whatever. So going forward, folks, I'm feeling pretty good. Now, Luke and I are going to have a much more in-depth episode. So I'm not going to go, too into the weeds about free agency and draft and pieces and whatnot, because obviously the show is much more lively when it's the two of us, and I prefer to have those conversations with him for his input. But we're not losing a whole lot of key pieces. We're not. And we should anticipate growth in many positions across the board on this being a very young team. I mean, the two guys that I talked about, the 2 first-round draft picks that right now feel like whiffs, or at least that we're not getting the return on investment. But I mean, you could be more consistent too, but Lucas Van Ness starts showing up like that first-round pedigree that he was, and we figure out a way to put Jordan Morgan in the rotation, whether that's moving Zach Tom to center or what other sort of mad scientist things we have to do to get our best 5, our most talent 5 offensive linemen out in the field together. And then what else do we add to the team? Right? Between free agency, which we do have a lot of money, and the draft, which we do have a full, we have picks every round. We have a full arsenal. And despite my misgivings about how we've done in the first round lately, Gutekunst has found some absolute dogs. Look at last year's draft. Edgerrin Cooper, who again should have been Defensive Rookie of the Year for the NFC. 2nd round pick. Evan Williams, absolute stud. He was 4th, 5th round? Carrington Valentine, couple years back. I mean, let's forget the whole Dallas Goedert thing. But Carrington Valentine is a solid starting NFL cornerback that we found in the 7th round. So I'm telling you folks that the glass is over half full. We are close. Just like this show, we just need some consistency. And I have faith that when south of the Cheddar Curtain leads the way, that the Packers will follow. I know it's hard after another playoff loss. I know that especially for us here that live south of the Cheddar Curtain, it's awful to have to go to work and see all those Bear fans with their, the little smirks on their face. You guys are 1-5 in the division. You guys are 0-2 in 2025, and we're 1-0. And I hear that. All I can say is laugh while you can. Because we know who we are. We know what this team is. And the Pack is going to be so back, it's not even going to be funny. Until next time, folks, go Pack, go.